That Tuesday morning felt as ordinary as any in my townhouse in Houston. The sun slanted through the blinds, casting familiar stripes across the living room. I brewed my coffee in the French press, inhaling that rich smell that never failed to steady me. Cicadas hummed outside, that steady drone I had grown used to over the years. My hands wrapped around the mug as I looked toward the shelf where my father's framed photo sat. He had passed years ago, but I still greeted him each morning as if the ritual gave me some anchor. Nothing about that morning hinted that my footing was about to shift. If anything, I told myself it would be one of those days where quiet habits carried me from one hour to the next. That was the lie of comfort I leaned on, until the doorbell rang. The knock startled me, quick and sharp. When I opened the door, a courier stood with a stiff white envelope. Heavy cream stock, embossed seal, international stamps, the sort of thing you expect for weddings or graduations. My heart lifted, my chest tightening with anticipation. Berlin. My brother's wedding. I imagined finally being drawn back into the center of my family, seated at the table where I belonged. I carried it inside carefully, as though its weight meant something noble. The texture under my fingers was smooth, embossed letters pressing back into my skin. I smiled as I broke the seal, but the smile didn't last. As my eyes scanned the invitation, my breath snagged. The paper was heavy, yes, but my chest had never felt so hollow. The main card laid out names in elegant script. My mother, my brother, his fiancé's family, rows of relatives assigned to priority seating. My name was nowhere to be found. I flipped the inserts, searching frantically as though a mistake could be corrected with another page. My fingers landed on a logistical sheet at the back. One line stabbed deeper than ink ever should. Financial sponsor, Isolde Wells, U.S. Wire. I was listed, not as a sister, not as family, but as a bank account. My pulse hammered. I whispered it aloud, the truth I wished wasn't mine. I was an ATM, not a sister. The sting dragged me back to another table decades earlier, a Christmas dinner when my mother forgot to place a card for me. Everyone else had names lined in gold ink at the long dining table, but I stood with my plate awkwardly in hand until she waved toward the kitchen island. I remember the heat in my face, the way my father's eyes flicked down in silent apology, but no words followed. That memory pressed against me now. The child inside hadn't left that island. She was still waiting to be called over, still hoping someone would notice. The woman I had become was no different, still extra, still misplaced. The hurt hadn't aged, it had only grown roots. I dialed my brother. Berlin noise buzzed through the line, horns, chatter, the hum of a city alive. His voice sounded rushed, distracted. "Hey, I'm in between things, what's up?" I asked carefully. "Brenner. I didn't see my name on the seating chart. Was it a mistake?" Silence stretched, then his sigh carried more annoyance than care. "It's Mom's decision. Please don't make this about you." The words landed harder than the paper. Don't make this about you. I had carried him through school applications, wired him money when he was broke, even helped him settle when he moved overseas. Now, I was selfish for asking why my seat was missing. That one phrase carved itself into me like a scar I knew would never fade. Shaking, I opened my banking app. The numbers glared back, $120,000 already transferred across months. Venue deposit, catering, music, each line item connected to me, the invisible sponsor. I scrolled through, the evidence undeniable. My name wasn't on a chair, but it was stamped on every receipt. They had carved out my role clearly, not sister, not daughter, just the financier. I closed my eyes, swallowing the heat rising in my throat. I sat at my desk, drafting an email to the wedding planner. Polite words asking if a possible error had been made in the seating arrangement. I reread it 3 times. Then I deleted it. Sending it would expose my wound. No, better to hold my silence. They saw me as a ledger, not a person. And ledgers only speak when they balance. That thought, sharp and bitter, steadied me more than tears ever could. Later that afternoon, a coworker stopped me in the break room. "So, when do you fly to Berlin? Must be exciting." My lips curved into a practiced smile. "Still figuring out dates?" Inside, the truth clawed at me like a trapped animal. I carried the secret humiliation in silence, even here. That moment of lying in public, smiling while bleeding inside, cut deeper than I expected. It wasn't just my family. The invisibility followed me everywhere. That evening, I scanned the QR code on the RSVP card, my phone chiming as the system processed my name. The result popped up. Overflow viewing. My chest tightened again. Even code had confirmed what my family decided. I was overflow, extra. Not needed at the main table, just placed aside. I set the phone down and pressed my palms over my eyes, whispering into the empty room. Even code knows I don't count. I tore the RSVP printout and taped it to my fridge. Proof. I would not gaslight myself into believing this was imagination. It happened. It was real. My phone buzzed with a new email notification. From my mother. The subject line froze me in place. Regarding Berlin. My breath hitched. If the omission had gutted me, the words inside would surely cut even deeper. The subject line glared at me. Regarding Berlin. My chest tightened as I clicked. The message was short, brutal in its efficiency. Do not come. Watch the live stream. It will be better for everyone. Your contribution remains appreciated. No greeting, no warmth, just bullet points about logistics and comfort. A note that I didn't speak German, that conversations would be awkward for me and uncomfortable for the in-laws. And the line that hollowed me out. Please respect our cultural expectations. I read it 3 times, my hands cold against the keys. My father's voice whispered from memory. Respect has to be earned, not demanded. But here respect meant silence, absence, erasure. I said it out loud into the empty kitchen. That's not etiquette, that's erasure. I leaned back, dissecting every phrase like a coroner over language. For everyone's comfort. Whose comfort? Not mine. Avoid disruption. As though my presence was disruption. Best for optics. That one word stopped me. Optics. The polite mask people wear when they mean shame. I remembered the quote my college professor once said, one I hadn't thought of in years. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I opened a blank note on my computer and titled it, Words They Chose. I copied lines from the email and underlined the closer. Financial arrangements remain unchanged. Translation was plain enough. Stay home, keep paying, I whispered to myself, steadying. This wasn't a preference. This was policy, and I would keep it intact as evidence. I opened another document and began drafting a reply, not groveling, not apologetic, measured. I offered solutions, interpreter services, translation headsets, even an English program for toasts. I typed a single condition, attendance and funding rise and fall together. I read it out loud, testing my tone. It was clear, firm, not cruel. It sounded like an adult speaking to equals, not a child begging for a chair. But my hands still shook. I remembered my father's lesson. Never set boundaries while your body trembles. I saved it under a file named Respect is Not Optional TXT and put a calendar reminder to revisit at 9 p.m. Dignity doesn't rush. I stepped outside, needing air. Houston heat wrapped around me like a damp towel. I walked the block, each step an attempt to steady my breathing. A neighbor watering her lawn looked up. Berlin soon? That's exciting. I forced a smile. Working out timing. The lie burned worse than the sun. Pretending felt heavier than truth. My dad's words surfaced again. Silence can be kind, but not to yourself. I realized I'd spent years lying so others could stay comfortable. Not anymore. By the time I rounded back to my door, my resolve was tighter than my chest. Facts first, then action. I sat at my desk and opened my bank app. The numbers lined up like a cruel ledger. $120,000 already gone. Venue, catering, photographer. A final wire of $80,000 was queued up, set to leave my account in 10 days. The button Cancel Future Transfer blinked at me. My finger hovered, but I stopped. Evidence first, reaction second. I printed the wire schedule and clipped it beneath the printed email. My name wasn't worth a chair, but it headlined every invoice. I wrote one line beneath it all in thick black pen. If you won't seat me, you won't spend me. I called my mother. She answered like a receptionist. No warmth, no pause. I explained calmly. Interpreter options, translation support, solutions laid out clean. Her voice didn't waver. It's not personal. It's cultural. My throat tightened. So, family is conditional on fluency? She exhaled. On respect. Voices clattered in her background, plates, laughter. She was entertaining while telling me I wasn't welcome. I ended the call before my pride bent into begging. My dignity doesn't bargain. I wrote down the time and her words in my notes. That's what you do when you've learned. Document everything. The screen lit again. WhatsApp. A message from Gerlinda, my brother's fiancée. Hi Isolde, we're keeping everything 100% in German to honor tradition. Don't want you to feel out of place. Best to enjoy the live stream. No question. No opening. Just a tidy dismissal tied with a bow. Honor tradition against honor people. I typed 3 responses, deleted them all. I wouldn't waste breath teaching someone who found satisfaction in excluding me. I starred the message, filed it as evidence. Then I wrote a counter-truth for myself. Tradition without kindness is just theater. Another ping, this time from the planner. A cheery note with an updated payment timeline, confirming that I remained primary guarantor. I marked it unread, then flagged it red. The color fit. I printed it, clipped it to the financial pile, and stuck a yellow note across. Funding tied to attendance, non-negotiable. I poured a glass of water, sat tall, and waited for the adrenaline to fall. At my fridge, I pinned a card and wrote 3 sentences in black ink. You teach people how to treat you. Kindness without boundaries is self-abandonment. Dignity is not a luxury item. Words my grandmother might have said if she'd lived longer. Plain American truths. I didn't need to shout. Calm wasn't weakness. Quiet wasn't surrender. I opened my draft reply one more time and refined it to one line. Attendance and funding are inseparable. Reading it out loud, I felt it drop into place inside me like a lock clicking. Late afternoon, a new calendar invite appeared on my screen. Rehearsal, overflow viewing access. My name auto-filled in as Isolde, sponsor. I cropped a screenshot, added it to my evidence folder, and stared at the word sponsor until it blurred. I clicked decline. Not in anger, in clarity. The unsent email sat ready in my drafts. My next move would cost someone their illusion. I whispered, steady now. If you won't have me as family, you won't have me as financier. I closed the laptop, and then my phone rang. Berlin's country code flashed like a warning light. The email arrived just before dinner. Subject line, seating logistics, final draft. My gut knew before I clicked. The PDF opened in color-coded neatness, as if civility could hide cruelty. Tables, A through C, carried my mother's name, my brother's, Gerlinda's family. My name? Nowhere. Off to the side, a gray box labeled Overflow Technical. My placement, behind AV technicians, near the exits. Notes said, non-German speakers to be positioned near translation screen, standing permitted. Standing. They dressed it up in positioned, but it meant out of sight, out of frame, out of family. I printed it, circled the box, and wrote across it in ink. Exile row. I called the planner. She answered with a voice trained in PR, smooth, friendly, non-committal. This is about line of sight for cameras, she said. Optimal guest flow. I asked directly, was this a mistake? Did you mean to put me in overflow? She softened her tone. It's to ensure your comfort. And to keep filming smooth, I pressed. Which other non-German speakers are there? She paused long enough for me to hear the truth. None. I said it plain. This isn't logistics, it's segregation. Silence. Then, I can raise your concern. I noted the time, her exact words, and filed it. Precision is armor when the game is rigged. An hour later, another message hit my inbox. Ceremony toasts, language protocol, all formal remarks to be in German only. A bullet point glared. Guests uncomfortable with German to enjoy livestream captions off-site. Off-site. Enjoy. They packaged erasure in cheerful language. I highlighted both words. I replied, I can deliver my toast in English with interpreter provided. Their answer came swift. To preserve cohesion, no exceptions. Cohesion. I saved the chain into my evidence folder under policy, not preference. I tried again. A measured email. Booths for simultaneous interpretation, headset rentals, even a bilingual toast. I included links, prices, budget charts, solutions lined up, ready. Their response? We've decided on authenticity. I screenshotted that word, authenticity. That's how exclusion perfumes itself. The pattern was now undeniable. Every bridge I built, they burned. I reread yesterday's draft. Attendance and funding rise and fall together. It had aged well. Still restless, I called the Berlin venue directly. A manager picked up, his voice tired but kind. I asked about overflow technical seating. He described a narrow platform behind light rigs, blocked sightlines. Translators? I asked. Not planned, he admitted. Family requested full immersion. I thanked him. He sounded like a man who had watched this charade before. I jotted it in my notebook. Not misunderstanding, designed by choice. Then I poured water instead of wine. Clarity over comfort. At 8:02, Brenner called. His voice came soft, placating. The voice he used when he wanted trouble to melt. It's just one day. Go with the flow, please. I asked if he had seen the seating chart. He dodged. The team handles that. I cut him off. The team put me behind cameras. You didn't correct them. He sighed. Mom thinks this is best for optics. Optics. Always optics. I said it steady. Optics won't wire the final 80,000. For once, his silence served me. I sat back down at my desk and drafted an email to him. 3 points. 1. I require a family seat. 2. I will not finance a German-only event. 3. I'm willing to help fund translation solutions if confirmed by Friday. Clean. Direct. No adjectives. Business clarity, not sibling theater. I gave him 24 hours to respond. I printed and signed it, grounding myself with paper. I scheduled it to send at 7 a.m. Houston time. Minutes later, a family group text lit up. Mom wrote, "So proud of our cultural celebration. Thank you all for supporting full German format." Velvet words over barbed wire. Subtext, agree publicly or be the problem. I refuse to audition for belonging. I almost typed a one-liner. Respect goes both ways, but I deleted it. Boundaries are lived, not tweeted. I silenced the group notifications. My spine made more noise than their thread ever could. I laid the seating chart beside the language protocol and my pending wire transfer. I drew arrows in black pen. Policy. Placement. Payment. The chain was obvious. I wrote one sticky note. If you won't seat me, you won't spend me. I placed it over the wire confirmation. My alarms were set, one for rest, one for action at dawn. My laptop closed without tremor. The shake had finally left my hands. At 9:03, another planner email hit. Final rehearsal map. Please confirm your presence in Overflow Technical by 16:00. The floor plan now labeled my gray box. Sponsor. Sponsor, not sister. I took a screenshot and opened my scheduled email to Brenner. The cursor blinked under family seat. I added one more line. Funds and presents are inseparable. I saved, not sent, not yet. My phone lit again. This time, it was her. My mother. The phone lit up with the Berlin code again. I braced myself for another planner email, but instead, Brenner's face filled the screen, framed by a gray Berlin morning. Let's talk calmly, he said, voice low, like he was already preparing to smooth over a storm. I steadied the phone on its stand, opened my notebook labeled facts, and reminded myself, adults, not assignments. I'll listen, I told him, if we speak as equals. He nodded, a little too quickly. He called it a misunderstanding, the kind that happens in planning. I asked for specifics, not comfort words. He shifted in his chair, light bouncing on the wall behind him. I wrote down the timestamp, habit of someone who has learned memory gets rewritten later. I clicked share screen and pulled up the PDF, the one with my name boxed in gray behind light rigs. This, I said, is where they plan to seat me. Is that where you'd seat your sister? He rubbed his forehead, eyes narrowing as though the page hurt to look at. Oh, it's the team, he said weakly. They handle all this. Which team member? I asked. No answer. I circled the line aloud. Standing permitted. Why am I the only one listed here? His shoulders sagged. It's optics, he muttered, as if that word explained anything. I stayed with the paper in front of us. Facts don't blink, even if people do. For a moment, hope cracked open. He said he'd fix it, promised he'd message the planner right away. I waited, watching the dots blink on his muted screen. They felt like oxygen, small, fragile, but still hope. Then he returned, his tone softened into something rehearsed. It's Mom's decision. Please don't make this about you. The exact same phrase I'd heard before, now recycled with more polish. Hope folded in on itself like paper crushed in a fist. I'm not making it about me, I answered evenly. You made it not include me. His silence said the truth more loudly than any denial. Then came the language wall again. He leaned forward, voice coaxing. German only keeps it authentic. Can't you just go with the flow? I listed 3 bridges, headsets, interpreter, a bilingual toast. Each suggestion swatted down, dilutes the experience. Always the same pattern. Build a bridge, they burn it. Tradition without kindness is theater, I said flatly. He looked away, choosing not to answer. That's when she appeared. Gerlinda stepped into the frame, blazer sharp, morning light making her look almost staged. Thank you, she began, voice crisp, for your generous support, but cohesion is non-negotiable. She smiled as she added, We'd hate for you to feel out of place. It's better if you enjoy the live stream. My pulse slowed, not sped. Are you requesting my absence? I asked. Her reply was a clean blade. I'm confirming the plan we agreed. I never agreed, I corrected. She smiled again, the kind of smile that shuts doors. Then came the sentence that sealed it. Your name will not appear on family seating, she said, tone professional, like reading terms of service, for consistency and respect to the in-laws. I repeated her exact phrasing back, word for word, so it would lodge in both our memories. Brenner turned his face away, eyes cast down. Complicity has its own language. I typed a line into my notes. Erasure confirmed by bride, witnessed by brother. I ended the call politely. Thank you for the clarity. I set the phone down on my desk, poured a glass of water, and stood at the window until my breath steadied. Then I pinned the seating chart and the German-only email side by side on the corkboard. At the top I wrote, policy, placement, payment. Facts lined up in a chain that could no longer be disguised. I drafted a fresh email. Attendance requires a family seat. Interpreter options ready by Friday. Stripped of adjectives, stripped of apology. Just verbs that moved. I scheduled it to send at Berlin morning. Later, I walked to the German bakery near the square. The owners, an older couple, greeted me in gentle German, then repeated everything in English without me asking. The man handed me a plain roll and said, Respect speaks every language. I carried that sentence home like a stone in my pocket. On the walk back, I whispered my toast in English, not for them, not for performance, but to remind myself that my voice still existed. I would not beg for a chair bought with my own money. At home, I finalized the email. 3 clean lines. Family seat. Inclusive ceremony. Funding tied to attendance. I added a 24-hour response window. Business clarity, not begging. I filed the call notes under witnessed statements, printed them, stacked them on my desk. Paper doesn't argue. On the wire schedule, I placed a sticky note. Action follows principle, not panic. My hand hovered over send. I chose schedule. Calm is stronger than adrenaline. Just before 11, another planner email arrived. Final guest map, family tables locked. The floor plan was updated. My gray square now read, sponsor, overflow, confirmed, confirmed. I circled the word until the ink bled through the page. Then I filed it, whispered one word to the corkboard, noted. My email sat in the outbox, ticking toward Berlin morning like a slow fuse. The printer hummed quietly, feeding evidence to the growing file that would, in the end, decide everything. I woke before sunrise, the sky just starting to pale. Instead of coffee, I opened my laptop and pulled up the bank dashboard. Line by line, I read through every transfer. Venue deposit, catering, photographer retainer. Each stamped with my name as the sender. Each stamped with my absence on the other side. I printed the ledger and slid it under last night's seating map and language protocol. Paper doesn't lie. Money has a seat, I thought. I do not. My eyes settled on the pending $80,000 transfer, editable, still in my hands. A number in a box felt like more power than any plea I could ever make. Mid-morning, a new calendar invite dropped in. Subject line, family rehearsal, overflow viewing access, remote. My name sat beside the roll, sponsor, U.S. Parentheses, like I was cargo labeled for shipping. Attached was a code for the live stream and a PDF called Remote Guest Etiquette, Rule 1, Stay Muted, Rule 2, No on-screen toasts. Buried in cheerful language, for everyone's comfort. I starred the email, dragged it into my evidence folder, and whispered one word that felt like a clean blade. No. I called my mother. She answered with a clipped voice, all business. I offered solutions again, steady as stone. Headsets, interpreter, a bilingual toast. She cut me off. Do not come. Watch the live stream. It will be better for everyone. Word for word, the verdict landed. Is respect bilingual? I asked. Her reply, respect is conformity. I wrote down the phrase with the timestamp. I refused to beg. My closing line was short. Attendance and funding are inseparable. I hung up before she could turn it into another lecture. At work, walking down the corridor, a coworker asked brightly, "Booked your Berlin flight yet?" The polite lie slid out of me. Working on it. It tasted metallic, like pennies on the tongue. I ducked into the stairwell, leaned against cool concrete, and breathed through the sting. My phone in my hand, I texted myself a truth I couldn't say out loud. You teach people how to treat you. I swore off the lies, pretending only kept me bound. Back home, I spread the documents across the kitchen table, the seating map, the German-only email, the remote guest instructions, the wire schedule. I drew arrows between them. Policy, placement, payment. A chain, not a mistake. I took a photo. Proof outlives gaslighting. On a sticky note, I wrote the same line again. If you won't seat me, you won't spend me. I pressed it over the button for the pending transfer. The phone rang just after lunch, Brenner's name glowing. His voice was soft, coaxing. It's just one day. Go with the flow. I asked if he had seen the remote guest PDF. Planner protocol, he said. Protocols don't appear, I answered. They're approved. Silence. He filled it with the old refrain. Don't make this about you. I said, you made it exclude me. He retreated to authenticity. I countered, tradition without kindness is theater. My tone stayed calm. I'll send a written boundary, I said, adult to adult. Then I ended the call. I opened the file of the toast I once hoped to give. It was full of Dad, his words, his wit, his steadiness. I read it aloud in the empty kitchen. No applause, just me, my voice, and the echo of what it could have been. One line I highlighted for myself, respect is not negotiable. I tucked the speech into a folder I named Later. Some words wait for rooms that want them. I straightened the papers on the table and felt the shaking finally leave my hands. I wrote a single new line across my notebook. I will not finance my own erasure. That afternoon, I typed out the boundary in plain English. 3 lines, no decoration. Family seating required for my attendance. Inclusive ceremony options available. Links attached. Funding contingent on both by Friday, 1700 Berlin time. I added, silence will be read as refusal. No emotion, just clarity. I scheduled it to send in the Berlin morning. Then I printed a copy, dated and signed. Paper makes resolve harder to erase. Later, sitting on my neighbor's porch, Mrs. Hall handed me a glass of tea. She listened more than she spoke, but when she did, it was direct. You get what you tolerate, she said, squeezing my hand. I answered, I'm choosing not to tolerate being remote at my own family's event. She nodded, her eyes sharp with age. Then don't pay for it. I walked home lighter. Not happier, but lighter. As evening settled, another email arrived. Subject, remote kit confirmation. Sponsor. The word glowed on the screen like a bruise. I opened the wire schedule again. The $80,000 sat there, waiting. I whispered into the quiet, I don't fund what I'm not invited to. I closed every tab but that one. My finger hovered, then pulled back. Not yet. The right hour, not the hot hour. My phone buzzed. A Berlin number I didn't recognize lit up. I answered, and the voice on the line tried to turn my boundaries into a contract I never signed. Friday noon found me sliding into a booth at a small midtown diner, the kind with chipped mugs and no music overhead. Across from me sat Dietmar, a man who'd known my father long before I was born. He didn't waste words asking how I felt. He knew the look on my face, the weight in my hands. I laid out the stack of printed emails, the ban, the seating map, the German-only decree, the remote guest kit. He didn't flinch, didn't curse. He pulled out a yellow legal pad and a black pen. Dates, subject lines, exact phrases, he said. Evidence first, feeling second. I breathed out. This was language I knew. Clean, deliberate, undeniable. He read the documents like contracts, not like family drama. Then he asked the one question no one else had. Are you listed as donor or guarantor? I pointed to the planner's wording. Primary guarantor. He nodded, almost satisfied. That matters. Guarantors can revoke before the deadline. If the funds don't post, the contract defaults to them, not you. No lawsuit, no fight. My shoulders loosened for the first time in weeks. He didn't tell me to scream or beg. He said, document courtesy, then act. Don't sermonize. His suggested line was simple. Funding paused pending inclusive accommodation. Cool steel, not theater. Then came his bottom line, said with the calm of a man who's argued harder cases. Stop funding exclusion. If respect is conditional for you, money should be conditional for them. He told me to set a deadline, pause the wire now, and issue one final written condition. And send it once, he added. Don't debate by thread. He even offered to be copied as witness. It wasn't permission I was asking for. It was validation. We agreed. Monday morning, Berlin time, would be the line. We drafted the message together, slicing away adjectives until nothing wobbled. 3 sentences remained. Family seat required. Interpreter plan attached. Funding contingent by deadline. The closing line, non-response will be read as refusal. Funds will be withdrawn accordingly. Subject line, attendance funding link, final notice. I saved it in drafts, steady hands for once. Back at home, I called my private banking rep. I asked if the final wire was editable. It was. I asked about audit logs and written confirmations. Within minutes, a PDF arrived in my inbox confirming the pause. I printed it, stamped the date on the corner, and filed it under payment control. Facts first, adrenaline last. Then I moved methodically. Checklist written. Interpreter quotes attached. Receipts archived. A second email drafted for vendors if needed. Guarantor withdrawn. Contact contracting parties. One line rehearsed aloud for family if they called. Funds and presents are inseparable. I stopped rehearsing apologies altogether. They had no place here. Dietmar anticipated their spin before I could. They'll say you withdrew out of spite. My or shame. His solution was clean. Keep offers attached. Keep timelines stamped. Save one summary labeled, accommodation offered, declined. If anyone asked, one sentence would be enough. The fewer words, the truer they'd sound. I stood in front of my corkboard that evening, the sticky note still pressed over the paused wire confirmation. If you won't seat me, you won't spend me. I slipped my father's handkerchief into my pocket, the fabric worn soft from his own years of use. Quiet courage, not theater. I scheduled the final notice to send Sunday night my time, landing in Berlin at 9 o'clock a.m., sharp Monday. For the first time, my house didn't feel like a bunker. It felt like a compass. Late in the evening, I logged back into the bank and armed the lever. One click created the cancellation trigger for Monday if no conditions were met. The interface asked, "Are you sure?" I answered yes. A green banner confirmed, "Scheduled action created." I printed it twice. One for the file, one for the folder by the door. I texted Dietmar, "Ready." His reply came back 2 words, "Clean and kind." Dusk fell heavy. My phone stayed silent. No reply from Brenner, none from my mother, none from the planner. Silence itself was an answer. I turned off notifications, set 2 alarms, and laid the folder by my keys. On the fridge, above the QR code that once stung like a wound, I pinned one more line: "Dignity is not a luxury item." I turned off the kitchen light. The house settled into stillness. In the quiet, the scheduled action sat waiting, not like a threat, but like a truth I'd finally chosen. Sunday night in Houston felt like holding my breath for a city 7 hours ahead. My laptop screen glowed with the drafted email, scheduled to land at 09:02 a.m., Berlin time. On the table beside me, the stack was neat. Seating map, language ban, livestream kit, and the bank's confirmation that the final wire was paused. My father's handkerchief sat folded in my pocket. It wasn't for show, it was weight, quiet courage. I whispered the line once, "Funds and presents are inseparable." Then I stopped. No rehearsals past that, just midnight tea and the clock ticking toward their morning. At 9 on the dot Berlin time, the email went out. I saw the receipts ping. Planner opened it first. Brenner's inbox showed, "Opened, no reply." Mother's showed delivered but unread. My words were clean, 3 lines, no wiggle room. I started a new page in my notebook, labeling it responses, non-responses. I wrote the time next to each ping. Tomorrow, nobody would get away with, "We never saw it." For the first time in weeks, my hands stayed still. Not long after, Brenner's name flashed on the screen. His voice was hushed, bouncing off tile. I could hear chatter behind him, muffled doors. "Isolde," he whispered, "can we just move past this? Mom's in tears. Gerlinda's furious." I kept my tone even. Seats and language are choices. Money is also a choice. He tried the line about optics, sponsors, guests flying in. I repeated my 3 conditions, nothing more. He reached for the sibling card. "It's just 1 day." I cut clean. "It's exactly 1 day too many." His breath came heavy, caught between mother and fiancé, not cruel, but complicit. Minutes later, the planner sent a quick alignment invite. I declined with 1 line, "Written answers only." Their next email arrived sharp. "Family tables locked, no modifications possible." "Remote livestream kit confirmed." I typed back. "Then funding will be withdrawn as noticed." This time, I CC'd Dietmar, a witness in the room, silent, but present. The planner's reply, "Understood," came too quickly. They never intended to bend. Then my phone rang again. My mother, her voice clipped, managerial, no softness. "You will ruin your brother's day. Real families sacrifice." I let her finish before answering. "Real families don't exile their own." She pivoted to culture. "This is about respect for language." I countered, "Respect speaks every language." She tried shame, the same script I'd heard since childhood. I didn't bite. The deadline passed. "I won't finance my own exclusion." I ended the call before she could make it theater. Moments later, my private banker texted, "Action window open. Confirm?" I logged into the secure portal. A green banner waited. "Scheduled action. Cancel final wire revoke guarantee." It asked, "Proceed?" I ticked the boxes: conditions unmet, guarantor withdraws, notice sent. Then I clicked confirm. A PDF generated, stamped with time and date. I printed 2 copies, one for the file, one for the folder by the door. Paper that doesn't argue. I whispered to the room, "You can't spend what you don't respect." Within minutes, emails rippled. Planner. Payment guarantee revoked. Vendors will contact contracting parties. Auto mails from vendors followed. Venue, caterer, string quartet, all flagged unpaid. Then Brenner's number again. His voice panicked now, quick, uneven. "What did you do?" My answer was simple. "I kept my word. Funds and presents are inseparable." He gasped. "They'll cancel the chateau." My voice stayed calm. "Then choose inclusion quickly." His silence said everything. Loyalty to power is hard to unlearn. A group text lit up. Mother's words. Isolde withdrew out of spite. I didn't touch it. Instead, I sent her privately the 1-page summary labeled "Accommodation offered, declined," time-stamped and clean. One sentence. "This is about access, not revenge." I archived the thread. Proof outlives spin. Notifications off again. My statement had already been made. The fallout grew louder on email. Vendors asking for payment. The planner pleading, "Please reconsider for the family." I wrote back once. Family is the point. Inclusion is the price. Then nothing more. I ate a bowl of oatmeal, the ordinary anchoring the storm. By afternoon, the Berlin number rang again. I answered. Gerlinda's voice was sharp, every syllable measured. "You embarrassed us. Restore the wire. Now." My reply was steady. "Restore my seat." Her response? "No." My answer? Then the answer is still no. Her last words before hanging up were icy. "You'll regret this." I sat back, looking at the bank PDF in my hands. Stamped. Final, irreversible. Across the ocean, the cut was already bleeding. The house was still when I woke, but the quiet had a weight to it. On the kitchen table, I laid out the folder again. Emails, PDFs, the bank's revocation slip, each one crisp and final. I said my line under my breath once more. I offered inclusion. It was declined. That was all I needed, if pressed. Coffee sat in the pot, untouched. I stuck to water, steady breaths, no adrenaline spikes. My phone stayed on Do Not Disturb, except for Berlin contacts. Boundaries weren't poetry, they were survival. On the fridge, that QR code labeled sponsor glared back at me. Today it lost its grip. I wrote a small note and pinned it nearby. No interviews. If needed, 1 line, 1 document. By mid-morning, the first spark lit. A link from Berlin dropped into my inbox. Headline, "American sponsor pulls out after language ban." A grainy screenshot of the seating chart floated with it. My name branded Overflow Technical. The words felt surgical. The blog quoted a vendor. Guarantor revoked after being told to watch a live stream. I wasn't surprised. It was too neat, too fast, but seeing it public was still a jolt. Comments filled the page, half defending tradition, half calling it cruelty. I bookmarked the thread, screen captured each page. Receipts. I didn't respond. Silence wasn't weakness, not when the files were already lined up in my folder. Within hours, the echo crossed the ocean. A cousin texted a US link that mirrored the German post. A coworker pinged, "Is this you?" I typed back, "I won't discuss family matters publicly." Mrs. Hall's voicemail landed next. "Proud of your backbone, honey." I saved that one under keep. The social DMs stacked like laundry, piling but untouched. I scrolled my plan again. No debates, no dueling narratives, only factual summaries when necessary. By noon, the pushback began. The planner's office released a statement. Sponsor chose to withdraw due to personal discomfort. Then, worse, a doctored email screenshot began bouncing around family WhatsApp. My words spliced into an apology I'd never written. My pulse flared, but my hands didn't shake. I forwarded the file into my evidence folder labeled Fabrications. Then I typed a note. Cease misrepresentation. See attached timestamps. Dietmar and Brenner both CC'd. Sunlight does its job quietly. I didn't post it online. I didn't need to. Still, one line had to be made public. I drafted it carefully, attached my proof. I offered inclusive solutions: headsets, interpreter, bilingual toasts. They were declined. My attendance and funding are inseparable. I attached the one-page summary, time-stamped, titled Accommodation Offered, Declined. I sent it only to vendors and directly affected parties. No adjectives, no blame, just verbs and dates. When the media requests came in, I replied the same each time. Family privacy, documentation provided where relevant. I logged each one, date and time. Paper trails protect the quiet. With that line delivered, I went silent again. The contracts, though, spoke louder. Auto emails from vendors landed hard. Chateau, final payment not received. Caterer, service at risk. Quartet, hold released at noon. I answered none. I wasn't the contracting party. Brenner texted, "We need time." I answered, "You had time. You chose optics." A final planner email begged, "Grace for the couple." My reply, "Choose inclusion now." Short, final. The clock doesn't wait for optics. Brenner called again, his voice echoing from a hotel corridor. I could hear people in the background, a door shutting hard. "Wire just half," he said. "Give us space to sort this out." I didn't bend. No inclusion, no funds. The phrase was a steel bar. He exhaled like the floor had dropped. "Mom refuses English at the ceremony," he admitted at last. That was the core. The choice was theirs. "You're forcing my hand," he said. I told him, calm, "No, I'm freeing mine." He hung up without a goodbye. Then the crack came. A bridesmaid messaged. She left. Minutes later, Brenner confirmed. "Gerlinda has returned the ring. Wedding postponed." The official line spun it. Financial instability from sponsor. That lie burned him more than me. I typed back one line. "You can correct that without me." Then I set the phone aside. The sorrow came, not for a party, but for the long tradition of cruelty collapsing under its own weight. I folded my father's handkerchief once, neat, closing a chapter with fabric and quiet. I peeled the sponsor QR from the fridge and slid it behind the bank revocation slip in my file. In its place, I pinned a card I'd written. "Respect speaks every language." A knock at the door broke the stillness. "Mrs. Hall stood there with peach cobbler, warm and fragrant. We ate standing at the counter, two people who had both outlived their share of storms. "I didn't win," I told her. "I just stopped losing." She smiled, soft and certain. Same thing today. Before bed, one last email came in. Subject: Private meeting. Tonight. From my mother. "No planners, no Gerlinda. Come alone. We will resolve this as family." My cursor hovered over reply. My eyes lifted to the corkboard. Policy, placement, payment, proof. I typed a single question. "Will you offer me a seat?" Then I stopped. I closed the laptop, picked up my keys. Boundaries don't fear doorways. I stepped into the evening not to argue, but to finish. I didn't choose my house for this meeting. Too many shadows, too much history stuck to the walls. Instead, I booked a small glass-walled room at the neighborhood library. One table, 4 chairs, a clock that ticked so loud it cut through silence. I set my evidence folder on the table, thin but sharp. On top, Dad's handkerchief, folded once. Courage doesn't need an audience. I opened my laptop, camera on, plain background. No kitchen, no home on display, just me. I started my voice recorder. Monday, 7:00 p.m. Houston. Participants. Myself, my mother. I told myself, 1 hour. No yelling, no bargaining, only terms. Her face appeared on screen. Alone, a hotel lamp glowing cold behind her. She wasted no time. "Family first," she began. "You've humiliated your brother. Now you must fix it." Her tone was clipped, polished. I answered with the same 3 lines I'd said a dozen times already. Inclusion offered, refused, funding linked to attendance. She leaned forward. "Tradition is respect," she pressed. I countered, steady. "Respect speaks every language." She shifted ground. Reinstate the wire, for Brenner's sake. I asked the only question that mattered. Will you offer me a seat? Her lips thinned. This is not about seating. It's about culture. The clock ticked louder, marking the dodge. I pulled up a screen share, her own email beside the planner's public statement. Her words, "Do not come. Watch the live stream." The planner's claim, she declined due to discomfort. Metadata doesn't lie. I opened properties, pointed to timestamps and IP headers, the apology lines cut and pasted from another thread. These cannot both be true, I said evenly. Her face froze, then flickered. The team mishandled it, she murmured. I logged the moment in my notes. Misrepresentation acknowledged. 7:28 p.m. She tried another tack. We can fix this privately, she said, sliding a PDF on screen. An NDA, just a formality. Protecting the family. The document vague, smothering. I closed it with a single click. No contracts for respect, I told her. I don't sell my seat, and I don't buy my voice. I leaned forward. My terms, plain. 1. A family seat. 2. Bilingual access. 3. Correction of false statements. 4. No NDAs about family treatment. I repeated the line I'd practiced. Funds and presents are inseparable. She snapped back. This is vengeance. I answered, no, this is policy. I uncapped my fountain pen, wrote it down. Policy, not revenge. The lamp behind her wavered. I sent the side-by-side proof as an email. CC'd Brenner and the planner. Subject: misrepresentation. Immediate correction required. Within minutes, the planner replied, acknowledged. Statement withdrawn. Brenner texted, we'll fix it. Mom says this is out of context. I replied, context is the header and the clock. The weight shifted. My mother exhaled, long and heavy, the sound of a strategy collapsing. I placed Dad's handkerchief next to the invitation on the table. This was supposed to seat me at your table, I said. I slid the invitation back in its envelope, wrote one line across the flap. Return to sender. No seat enclosed. The handkerchief I folded back into my pocket. What I keep is mine. What I return never was. My hands stopped shaking. Grief, when it's honest, is quiet. Then Brenner appeared in the frame, eyes red, voice soft. We can add you to table A. One toast in English. That's the best I can do. I asked him, is that your offer or hers? He glanced off screen. That was answer enough. If you mean it, I said, send the new seating chart. In writing. No optics, just a seat. He nodded weakly. My mother cut in. We'll discuss this after the wedding. No, I said. No more afters. I gave them my final. If a real seat exists by morning, with access, with correction, I'll attend, without funds. If not, I wish you peace, from my own table. I pulled my offer of money back for good. That river closed. 1 hour exactly, I ended the call. Boundaries live in terms and time. Outside, Houston's night air wrapped around me, warm and free. I walked steady. Texted HR, confirming my day off. Healing is logistical too. On my way home, I slid the invitation into the library's outgoing mail, addressed back to Berlin. At home, I peeled the sponsor QR from the fridge and filed it behind the revocation slip. In its place, I taped a card. Dignity is not a luxury item. Dad's handkerchief rested on my nightstand. Some inheritances are cloth, some are courage. I texted Mrs. Hall. Cobbler tomorrow? She replied, you bring coffee. I whispered one line to myself before sleep. No more buying my way into rooms that won't open.